Hello, everyone. My name is Greg West, and I'm back here again at the Black Community Blackboard YouTube channel, where we like to highlight those hidden gems in our community with all of the negative that regular media always portrays us as Black people on the media. We need to set our own narrative, and this is what this channel is dedicated to. We like to go into our community and find these hidden gems, that have been behind the scenes doing things that are community activists, our educators, our business owners, and stuff like that. And tonight we have one of our artists in our Black community, Morris Howard. Morris is a Dayton native and, spent many years abroad, but he's always found a way to come back home. A lot of you guys might know some of his work if you've been down to the Funk Museum. Land of Funk mural downtown. That was some of his work. And also over at the Dayton Fellowship Club over on Germantown, that was some of his work there. And he also has an extensive list of accomplishments and exhibits that he's been a part of. I couldn't even name enough, all of them, man. So one thing I appreciate about him is not only does he, believe in our culture having art, he also believes in our community. He's one of those figures that is always in the background doing things to help us better our community. So tonight it's an honor and privilege for us to have Morris Howard on our show. Good afternoon, Morris.
Hey, Greg. Hey, I appreciate you having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for this.
You know, um, I know you, pretty good. We've gotten a better relationship over these last few months. But one thing, you know, what, what, what persuaded you to get into art? Because I know my brother. He used to do a lot of drawing when we were kids and stuff like that, but he never really pursued, it as a career or anything like that. What was that deciding factor in your life that said, "Hey, this is what I want to do with myself"?
Well, as a kid, I mean, I just there's I have a hard time remembering, Greg, when I didn't want to do art, when I wasn't uh, participating in art, and it goes back as far as I can remember. But making the decision that this is what I wanted to do with my life, and that I wanted to uh, have a career in art. That didn't happen until I was about 34 years old, or 33, 34 years old, when I went ahead and made preparations to go back to school. Um, I ended up going to the Art Institute of Atlanta. I left Virginia. Um, Actually, I want to say when I was uh, 35, in 94. And so I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta, um, which I got a degree, but my degree was in illustration. As a matter of fact, I believe I was their last, um, illustration major, and like old fashioned illustration major. And I have a degree in visual communications. And but my education really took off when I got to be around professional artists, and artists who had been out and made a career path. Uh, you know, some before I was even born, and I began to bond with them, and I began to meet up with them on a daily, sometimes a daily basis, but definitely on a weekly basis. And one of the art groups that I belonged to was a group called Untitled, which had some of the best artists in our community. And I was in Atlanta at the time, and we met at Spelman College for 5 years, uh, and that actually started in '99. Um, that's when I officially um, joined the group and became a regular, and um, that did a lot for my growth But even before then, um, there was an artist. His name was Carl Owens, and God bless him. I think about him often. And Carl Owens was a an African American artist from Detroit, and Carl actually got his start in the army. Um, I want to say, I believe during the Korean War, and he was an illustrator in the army. And when he got out, um, he began to do various freelance things and struggled for a while. But in the 60s and the 70s, he did a lot of the illustration for the album covers for Motown Records,
Mm.
and uh, became quite prominent, and became known for his prints. And When they had the Great Kings of Africa series back in the 70s that Budweiser sponsored, he
Yeah.
was one of the artists.
Okay.
And when I met him, man, it was like meeting one of my heroes, and you know, a man who was very kind to me, and uh, had a lot of faith that I had the talent that I could make it. And that also put me in touch with by meeting him, and then I got to meet other artists like Charlie Palmer, who was just on the cover of Time this summer, um, after the George Floyd and all the Black Lives Matter protests. He has a painting of a little girl that's on the cover, and also is featured on the inside. And he also did um, the CD cover for John Legend's latest latest album and CD. And so we go back 20 years and or more. And an artist from Cincinnati named Gilbert Young, um, who's has a famous print called "He Ain't Heavy," with a hand, another brother pulling another brother up over a wall, and which when I first saw that, I was in the Navy in Virginia when I first saw that piece, and years later, I would end up meeting the guy and getting to know him. So, to sum that part of it up, it was very instrumental to my growth. And there's other artists, that also, like Louis Del Sart, who we lost uh, last year, um, who was a very prominent artist, originally from New York, but had been in the Atlanta area for many years. So um, I could just go on and on, man, about how much they helped me, and how much being in their presence, and how much I was pushed, to become, um, better, at art.
Right.
And when I talk to kids, and towards the younger people or younger artists, um, this is something that it's either you have to believe in what you're doing, because it's going to be many unforgiving times that you're going to have to go through most of the time, not unless exceptional, or you get picked up by someone or recognized early or something. But for most of us, it's a lot of hard work, and a lot of rejection, a lot of disappointment. But that's how I learned to grow. And without that, I can't say that I'd be the person that I am, or the artist that I am today.
You know, I hear you talk a lot about working with the adolescents. Let's talk a little bit about the program that you're involved with, the Halo program. Because I appreciate that you want to teach art to these to the youth and everything, because that's really show me one culture without any art in it, and I'll show you a culture that has no culture.
That's true.
So if you can, let's talk a little bit about the Halo program.
Well, the Halo program, um, that was started by a friend of mine, Brittany Long, and also a lady that I worked for named Jerry Stannard. And they created this program, and the acronym stands for helping adolescents achieve long-term objectives. And the Funk mural that's downtown on Stone Street um, was largely uh, worked on by these youth in the in the summer of 18, um, and without their help, it would have been possible. Now we have volunteers, here and there that may come in for a day, and I appreciate them, but the the youth were basically the backbone of getting that mural completed, because you're talking about 21 panels, 21 12-foot by 16-foot panels that go down that wall on Stone Street. And so, without their help, I wouldn't have been able to pull that off. And so, I'm eternally grateful to Brittany and to another young lady who also works for the county, Shirley Tucker. And so, without them, it would have been possible. It would have taken a lot longer. So, it was, uh, it was a, it was a position, Greg, that I really had never been in before. I had never been in a situation where I had to trust someone else with my art. You know what I mean? And so it was a total learning experience for me, and one that I'll never forget. But the end result was beautiful, and so that was that's my to date, that's my greatest achievement, because it gave you an opportunity to be a teacher, to be an example, to um, be able to give kids a chance that every time that somebody mentions that mural, or every time they go by it themselves, that they know that they had a part in that,
Right.
and that's a really good feeling.
So working with the adolescents, I know a lot of times when we work with those that segment of our population, we meet them right where they at, and most of the time it's a lot of brokenness. Um, Over the time of working with them, do you find that you get a chance to see the growth in them, and how just dealing with them with in the faculty of doing art, how that changes their perspective about their self and also about their community?
Well, that's a really good question, Greg, because working with youth, I've see I was working with youth, the youth from the Halo program, the kids from there. They're kids that they haven't totally got totally out of, to use a slang term, totally out of whack yet. But
Right.
this is an opportunity that will this is an opportunity for them to be a part of something and to get back on the the straight and narrow. But working for K-12, which my other hat was going into the juvenile systems and going into the detention center, going into the Center for Adolescent Services, called CAS for short, which is in New Lebanon, and going into the Nicholas Treatment Center, um, which is out, on Infirmary Road, and going in and dealing with youth and meeting them where they're at. And what I had to learn was I couldn't come in with this already made curriculum. I had to start to adapt to meet the kids, as you said, where they were. And I found out that it's like, for instance, I was a terrible math student. And when I saw math, man, I would just, I would just, kind of freak out a little bit because I knew that I wasn't good at it. And so kids, when they start to feel pressure about something that they're not good at, and they feel like that it makes them uncomfortable or it makes them totally shut down. And when you give them the freedom to be where they're at and just create, that's when you start to see uh, the growth. And what I found out is that even kids that don't like to draw or they're not interested in art, none whatsoever, if you give them some paint and a brush, it's something about that makes even the. I mean, I've had kids they would do anything, man, until they got an opportunity to use that brush and that paint, and it changed. It changed everything. And so those are some unorthodox methods, but I found that we have for each class we have an hour, hour and 10, 15 minutes at the most. And so let's make the best of it. Let's give them an opportunity to create and give me the opportunity to, um, be able to um, have a class where we can all get what we want and what we need. And uh, that was something that I learned from experience because I came in with the curriculum and I came in and that's going to work for some kids because they may be artistically inclined and they just may have an interest in art, but some kids they just don't. And and it's like I don't believe in forcing someone to do something that they really don't want to do.
Right.
I don't grade anybody. uh, so there's no failure.
Okay.
The only failure is if you fail to do anything at all. But there's no harsh criticism. There's no making anybody feel bad or feeling less than or anything because they're not at the level of someone else. And so and it also too, Greg, to something else that I want to point out. It also gave me an opportunity to talk with them about other things that
Right.
didn't have anything to do with art. And and so when those doors opened, I took the opportunity to talk to them about life in general, and not only talk to them but listen to them talk to me about what they had been through or where they were at the time. And you know uh, because if you're going to be with somebody for a period of time, you want the situation to be as comfortable as possible.
All right, great. And so that was going to be one of the questions that I was going to ask you. Talking about that when coming out of all of that, I'm pretty sure you've learned a lot more about yourself by dealing with, because one thing I know in life that when I'm giving something to somebody, I always gain something back. And I heard you talking about, trusting people, these adolescents with your art taught you how to become a teacher. But on some other levels, what else, dealing with them, what else have you learned a lot about you and about yourself?
Well, it also, one of the things it did for me, Greg, is it gives me a chance to look at who I was when I was their age.
Right,
And because a lot of the same problems that I have are some of the same that I had are some of the same problems that they have. And now, do we have, in lots of cases, do we have the same exact problems? Not necessarily, but I had the peer pressure. I had going along to get along and the whole situation. And so a lot of these kids are in the same situation. I had a lot of misinformation, a lack of leadership, and so, um, so I understand the running with people. And so one thing about kids, they can sense when when you're feeling, trying to come off as somebody that you're not,
Right.
and they can tell. And like when I first started, Greg, when I first started at the detention center, when I first started down there, and a young man said, "Mr. Howard, you are OG." I said, "Whoa, whoa, man, no, I'm not a." I said, "I know. Look," I said, "Hey, man, look, much respect, but I'm not an OG. I know what your definition of an OG is, but my definition of an OG is something entirely different." And I said, "No disrespect. I understand. I appreciate the respect, but I had to let them know that uh, that was a lifestyle that I found myself in. That wasn't my lifestyle. That wasn't what I really wanted to do, and that wasn't what I was really comfortable with. And so I had to get that distinction that people that I consider OGs are not the same people, or the same type of person that they may consider someone being an OG. And I appreciate it. Yeah, because I'm still alive. Yeah, I grew up by the soda baths. I had a past. Sometimes the past worked. Sometimes the past didn't.
Right.
And so I had to go through there, and sometimes I had to fight or run or whatever whatever the situation was. So it wasn't like it was anything I was unfamiliar with. But what I try to tell them is that no, I decided that I want to do something different with my life. It doesn't make me better. It just means that I made another decision. And so I don't come off on them like I'm this hard guy and this, that, and the other. And but I also let them know, I said, man, I have people doing 100 years.
Right.
So understand that it's closer to me than you would believe. Not just one person, several people. And it's all about the choices that we end up making, that puts us in a position. But what it does for me is that it gives me an opportunity to give something back, Greg. And it gives me, an opportunity to let someone, uh, if they want to see me as an example, that try to be the example, the best example that I can be, the best me that I can be, not the best, person that I think they want to see, but just be honest. Because, Greg, what I find, most people are okay. Either they're okay with you, they're more okay with you being honest with them about who you really are than they are about you trying to pretend to be someone that you're not and they know you're not.
Right.
And so I'm there to try to um, give them some alternatives to look at so that they can make some better choices, and then that's up to them. And so uh, one of the things too, man, it's some very talented kids, just like I was, man, but they don't have the confidence in in art as a career path, because they don't have any examples. And
Right.
I tried to be that to the best of my ability. And uh, but it's a hard, it can be a hard sell, man, because we're going up against uh, we're going up against forces, man, that are in the community and outside the community that influence them. And but all we can do is try.
Right. You know, I was looking at you. You know, you like I said at the beginning, man. Looking at all these exhibits and everything that you've been a part of, and I know with a list like this, it's probably hard to single out one or two that was your favorite ones. But if you could, out of all these exhibits that you have on your resume, which one would you consider that was most meaningful in your career?
Wow, that's real tough. Because for the past, want to say, oh wow, I want to say since about 2013 or 14, um, I was involved in it's an exhibit called Black Heritage Through Visual Rhythms, and it was a idea that was created by some members from the art group that I belong to, the African American Visual Arts Guild, which was started by Bing Davis and Dwayne Daniel, Clifford Darriott, and these are the people that um, came up with the theme for the exhibit Black Heritage Through Visual Rhythms, which they partnered with the Afro American Museum um, up in Wilberforce, Ohio, and so up there, by both the campuses, CSU and Wilberforce. And it's now that partnership has ended a couple of years ago, but they have now partnered with the Dayton Art Institute.
Hmm.
And so there will be an exhibit um, this summer in June. But some of my uh, ones that I can say that I was most, I'm proud to exhibit, when I can, and there's been some, and I know I'm going to leave something off, but um, that was one because one of the reasons why that was so special to me, Greg, is because I was able to exhibit um, in that exhibit before I even moved back to Dayton.
Hmm.
And my brother, who lives here, who uh, Quinn, was able to take my mother to, uh, to the exhibit, and to the reception and everything, uh, and she got a chance to see me participate um, in that exhibit, and that meant a lot to me. So that's one whenever I'm at one of their receptions, since my mother passed away in 17 because she wasn't able to go uh, the last few years of her life because I came back in 15 and my mother passed in 17. So 15 and 16, 15, and 16 she didn't make it, and so that's always real important to me because that was something that she could actually, attend. And so the exhibits I had in Memphis, I was part of a collection that they have at the Civil Rights Museum, National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, which was called Artist Eyes on the Prize, which was in 2011. And I was really proud of that. Um, um, and like I said, I know I'm going to leave something off, but um,
It's hard too with this extensive resume that I'm
well, I've
looking.
been in I've been in a lot. I've been in a
Yeah.
lot, and well, another one was when I had moved from Memphis and I moved back to Atlanta. Um, Someone uh, reached out to me uh, to be part of an exhibit called Present Tense, which was people who artists who had um, done some work that was recognized in the beginning of the first 10 years of the millennium.
Mm.
And uh, and I was asked to be a part of that. And they actually borrowed the painting from the Civil Rights Museum's collection, which was called
Okay.
um, oh my goodness, oh man. But anyway, it was a painting that I did that was from the 40th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, and it was called Keepers of the Dream,
Okay.
and I didn't know that this is the real honest truth. A friend of mine helped me pick the name for the painting because it's a painting of a crowd that was marching um, on Dr. King's birthday on April the 4th, and this was 2008, which was the 40 years. And um, I didn't know that the Civil Rights Museum actually had a award called Keepers of the Dream. And so, it was just meant to be, man. And how I got that painting, um, how I was able to bring that painting to life was I was a volunteer for Al Sharpton's National Action Network, and I was in the crowd, and I turned around to get this shot. And when I turned around, the force of the people coming forward uh, was just amazing, and it was pretty magnificent. And I was able to paint that, and uh, people fell in love with it. And make a long story short, Greg, how the Civil Rights Museum actually ended up with that painting um, was because it's downtown Memphis, and FedEx, and well, the FedEx Forum, and um, First Tennessee Bank, they sponsored a an artist program where they would allow like 4 or 5 artists to get to exhibit on the First Tennessee uh, Bank's floor at the FedEx Forum, and you get to exhibit there for like I think 6 months, a year, something like that. And they gave you, like a really nice stipend. And so I did that painting. That was one of the ones that I was shooting for to get picked for that exhibit. That painting actually blew everybody away. But the reason this is what happened, how the Civil Rights Museum ended up with it, because in the painting, Greg, there's a painting of there's a SunTrust building, the bank building of SunTrust, and there's the First Tennessee Bank. But the SunTrust Bank in the painting was much larger. So First Tennessee said, "No, we can't have that." But I still got in the exhibit. But I
Right.
just could. Um, I had to substitute another painting that they approved of, and so that's how that went. And so a few months later, the Civil Rights Museum and I, where we went into negotiations, and they bought
Okay. You know, I'm just laughing at that. Flipping the script a little bit because like I say, over these, when you said 2005, I was like, wow, it's been that. I mean, 2015 since you moved back home. It's been 6 years since I met you. And one thing, like I said, over these last few months, doing some of the stuff that we do in the community, where we meet every Saturday, talk about, the plight of Black community, how we can help. I understand, I've gotten a clear understanding that you believe in our politics, you know what I'm saying? And you believe in, the right to vote and everything like that. And one of the stories I like to hear when you talk about was when you, the first time you went out on that voter registration drive. You know, if you can, talk about that a little bit, and also the importance for us to get people to register to vote and get to the polls, and also keeping our elected officials, held accountable.
Okay, Greg, and I certainly want to get to that. Let me give me just a hot second to get to that, but let me mention this before I forget, because one thing about doing interviews, man, and you start name dropping, you always forget something,
Right,
and you always forget somebody. But when you were asking me about the exhibits, now one of some of the best exhibits that I've been in since I've been back home, and I just want to touch on this briefly, and I'll get to your question. But Being Davis,
yeah,
um, has a couple of exhibits that I've been a part of. One is Black Lives as Subject Matter,
hmm,
and the other one is the Dayton Skyscrapers. And the Dayton Skyscrapers um, honor people in our community who have, whether they're still living here or from here or have had an impact since they've been here or were here. And so those are very important exhibits that I was very proud to be a part of. And that was the last exhibit um, in 16 that my mother
hmm,
attended. She was able to make that one before she got, really, really sick. And so I just wanted to point that out. And it was usually held at the Schuster Center for years. And so to come back and be a part of that was pretty good. Now, to get to the question about the voter registration and everything, I think yeah, you obviously the story about how I got involved in that,
right,
and uh, like basically, man, I was a hood rat, and so in '83, uh, a cat that I used to run with was slightly older, uh, named Ronnie, and he's gone from us, God bless him. Um, he said, man, let's go over to Roosevelt. And by then Roosevelt had been shut down for about 8 years by then. And he said, man, there's some cat speaking over there, and they got some food, and I heard some girls is over there and this kind of thing. And so, you know, just really having nothing to do, nothing constructive anyway. And so
right,
we went over there, right? And there was a guy there. The guy that was speaking was a guy named Joe Madison, and he was a Roosevelt alum
right.
from Dayton. He was based out of Detroit then, and he was the voter education director of the NAACP and also over the Detroit NAACP. And so he had this voter registration drive, and it was based on the route of the voter registration drive was based on the Underground Railroad. So they had dubbed it the Overground Railroad. And so what people were doing were the volunteers, what they were supposed to do was to uh, register people to vote, retracing um, the Underground Railroad route. And so he had some junior, which was the junior NAACP uh, members, back out on him in Louisville. And so when he got to Dayton, he needed some more volunteers. And so uh, me and some other people, that I knew, but we raised our hands and everything. And so the next thing I know, man, a day or two later, I'm standing up here in Columbus, and Sherrod Brown at the time was the youngest, I believe, the youngest Secretary of State in the nation. And I'm up here, man, and we getting a proclamation and all this stuff. I'm like, man, if everything was happening so fast, I was like, man, this is, for real. Now, this is an honest truth, man. And I I know Joe, and I still keep in touch with Joe to this day. But back then I had not even voted yet.
Right.
And the the thing, Greg, is that I was supposed to vote. Well, no, I wasn't. I was supposed to vote in 80 because in 76 I was only 17. I wouldn't turn 18 until after the election until 77. I wouldn't turn 18 until January of 77. So I couldn't vote when Jimmy Carter and Ford ran against each other. So I couldn't vote until Ronald Reagan and Carter. And I don't remember voting, so I'm gonna say I probably didn't. So and so we got started. To make a long story short, Greg, it was a life-changing experience for me because not only did I go on this incredible route, man, uh, we also took a detour and took a chartered flight from Cleveland to DC for the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington. And there I met Dick Gregory, and you know, saw all these people, Cosby and Gloria Steinem, and the like. But that was just one day. On that on that route, Greg, I met Daisy Bates from who was the lady in Little Rock, Arkansas, who was with the
Right.
NAACP that was responsible for the Little Rock Nine getting the Central High School integrated. And I met Rosa Parks, man, and in Detroit, John Conyers. And here I am, man, at this time, a high school dropout, had never voted, you know, and I'm registering people to vote, man, all across, across the country, man. And it was incredible, man. But it's like something that I'll never forget, and it changed my life. I didn't know how much until I got back, and That's why I can relate so much uh, to some of the kids that I've come into contact with. Because Greg, one of the low points for me, and one of the worst feelings I had when I got back home, because at the time, you know, I'm living with my mama, which, when I wasn't getting on her last nerve, you know, and I get back home. We was in Arlington Courts, and I got back home, and I got about a week or two later, I got this letter, and it's from something about the 100, but it was about young people of achievement type of situation, man. And I never could follow up on it, Greg, because I didn't have the education, I didn't have the background, I didn't have the standing, and I'll never forget that, as long as I live. And so, um, me doing what I did, I could never fully be who I was anymore because I knew some better things. I mean, man, after meeting Rosa Parks, I mean, what do you do, man? I mean, and and not just that, but just on this magnificent journey, man, with experiencing all of these different, um, meeting all these different people, man, and actually like making a difference. And I couldn't be the same, even though I went back to the same environment.
Right.
And so I just don't want to get too long-winded, but I just want to put the emphasis on um, that um, I had become a part of something special, and I couldn't really fully capitalize on it because I went back to the same environment, the same corner, the same lifestyle, but that thing was inside me, man. That
Right.
that that thing for change was inside me, and um, the political responsibility was inside me, and so I voted for the first time in the '84 election, which was actually November of '83. As you know, and so that was my first time. And I've been voting ever since. And like I said, the responsibility and learning about that. I'll say this, and we can definitely I can let get something else, Greg. But I found out things, man, that that you just can't know, man. Like there was a gentleman, and his name was W.C. Patton, and he was from Birmingham, Alabama. And this man told me how he risked his life to get people registered to vote. This this was a lot different than watching, news footage or reading about someone. I've got someone that's living and telling me how he was sometimes he would get out of town just by the skin of his teeth, man, from being lynched. So people could have the right to vote.
Right.
And when you've got that kind of responsibility, man, and you know better, we have to do better.
And, in this climate, like as you know, we have a forum coming up on the 27th of this month where we've invited some of our local elected officials and also some other politicians to attend, and I'm hoping that some of our viewers do it because the information is on the Black Community Blackboard page where it's time for us to start holding our elected officials and politicians' feet to the fire. It's been proven too many times that they'll come to our community when it's time to get our vote. We get them elected one more time, and then we're left with scraps. So I
Yeah.
believe that is, it's real important, for us to educate, some of the people out there who believe that our votes don't matter. Because you know me, one of the things I believe in is local elections, because that's where the change is going to take. But more than that, I believe it's up to us as a community to make the change. So, like in the next few years, what would you like to see happen in our community?
Wow, Greg, that's a heck of a question. Well, uh, I had to go national to recognize local because I give you a perfect example. I don't know where we were, um, but when I first went out with Joe and me and him were just walking, I forget what city we were in, but he said, "Look at that basketball court." And of course, it looked like the basketball court on Trishman, you know, right there, at Trishman and Roosevelt. It looked like that, no nets, grass growing through the cracks of the cement and things like that. He said these are people that don't vote. And he said, he would point out the parks and things like that and how our community was looking. He said these people in this community aren't voting. And I never forgot that. And so it took me to go away from home to start to learn just by little things like that, like your the trash, the the neglect of our communities because we're not holding local officials that represent us to task.
Right.
And so what I'm seeing and what I'm encouraged by is that the involvement because of people, who can really assemble on social media now, and
Right.
the grassroots organizations and the grassroots people like yourself, Greg, and a person who had the courage to take it upon themselves that, hey, I'm not going to just talk about it, I'm going to be about it. So I'm going to take that risk and I'm going to uh, make a run.
Right.
And those things are very encouraging. And so it's a long, we got a lot of work to do, but I just want to talk about that, some of the positive force that I see and that makes me really smile, man. And I'm more confident about the future, maybe than I was, a little while back. So I can see things changing and people becoming engaged. And that's what it's going to take because um, I, I actually went with Joe Madison on 3 voter registration drives, from 83 to 86.
Mm.
And the one in 86 was when we had, um, apartheid in South Africa. And they were looking for the divestment and everything. And um, we needed 1 million signatures. I'm not sure if we got that, but but we got the attention of the UN, and I know the South African embassy and the UN and everything like that. And to make that sum that up, it was me being involved and getting involved. And like I said, it wasn't this overnight success or anything like that. But once you plant that seed,
Right.
and so there's seeds that are being planted now, and the access to information is, out there, man. So I see some good things on the horizon, and I'm real happy about that.
As we get ready to wrap up, again, I want to thank you for taking the time coming out this evening. We've been trying to get this together, man. I was
Yeah.
determined too, man. I was determined because I believe, you're one of those hidden gems in our community that people need to know that, you're doing a lot of good work. And I'm honored to be able to call you a friend too, Morris. But
Well,
before we get ready to wrap up, if someone was interested in seeing some of your artwork or anything, how would they be able to get in touch with you?
well, you can email me at morris2574 at gmail.com, or Morris underscore Howard at hotmail.com. You can see my work on. I have an Instagram account, which is under the name Morris T Howard, or my Facebook account, which is under Morris T Howard, or um, Sachi Art slash Momo at on Sachi Art, gallery .com. So, um, and likewise, Greg, I'm honored to call you a friend, and I appreciate everything that you're doing in our community, and I appreciate you reaching out. And I want to um, also give a shout out to CSU West, um, that also provides us when we get back rolling. Actually, they're still doing it, even though we don't have the foot traffic anymore. But um, they have provided, my art group, the African American Artists Visual Arts Guild, a gallery, and we also have an office space there. And I also would like to give a shout out to the UD president Eric Spina, who turned a few years ago, turned the swimming pool part of the president's mansion into a gallery for AVAC to exhibit, and I appreciate that. And the fact that our community is changing, and people, the way people are looking at our community is changing, because as president, he is holding the school accountable for the community that's so close to the University of Dayton.
Right.
And so I just want to get, I don't, Greg, when people aren't doing the right thing, I'm going to speak out about it. And when people are doing the right thing, I'm going to speak out about that too.
Right.
So I just want to, I just wanted to leave on that note, man. And like I said, I want to leave on a positive note, um, because it takes a community, man. And if we can all just do what we're capable of, and that's all anybody can ask. Because Dr. King said anyone can serve,
Right.
and we have to find where we are best suited to serve. Greg, I do it through my art. If I could sing about it, I'd sing about it. If I
Right.
could, if I was Denzel, I'd act about it. But if I was Ali, I'd box it. And fight about it. But art is what I do, and that's my best vehicle uh, for trying to make change. And that's because the best person we can be is
That's
ourselves.
right.
So
That's right. Um, in the description when we get ready to post this for when it gets ready to air, I will have your information. So if anybody wants to check out your work and everything, and I'm looking forward to keep working with you, Morris, in the community, and also helping us make that turn, that paradigm shift that we are seeing that's happening in the community.
yeah,
Again, I want to
absolutely, Greg.
yeah, and again I
Absolutely,
want to thank you.
and I just want people to feel free to email me and get it, for any questions that they might ask or any inquiries. And uh, one of the things that I would like to present to you is that um, I would like to look at a forum uh, where we can start to teach our community about the importance of collecting art. And it's not as hard as people might think. And it's possible,
We
because we have to shift our priorities. And um, contrary to popular belief, art is not a luxury item.
right.
And understand one thing I try to tell people too, Greg: art appreciates, it doesn't depreciate. It's not
Right.
like when you buy that car and drive it off the lot. As soon as you drive it off that lot, it just depreciated in value.
30% right off the
That's
lot.
right. Art exactly. Art doesn't work like that.
Well, let's
And
let's try to what we're in a partnership with the Wesley Center, and I did bring it up to shine. That might be something that we can try to do up there, and just move forward and see how we can do that. That's a good idea because like I said earlier in this interview, show me a culture without any culture. Where art isn't a part of its culture, and you have there is no culture there. Um, Again, we would like to thank Morris for coming out this evening. And if you would like to contribute to help this channel keep going, you can do so at Black Community Blackboard at gmail.com on our PayPal, or you can also go to our Cash App, which is also in the description. Again, if you know some of the people in the community, some of those hidden gems that you think that need to be highlighted, those educators, those store owners, those organizations heads, or even people that are part of the organization, because we don't have to just have the chiefs. We can also have, because everybody's a chief in their own right. You can
right,
have them email us, or you can email us at Black Community Blackboard at gmail.com, and we will be more than glad to get those hidden gems on our channel. With that, I'd like to thank you again, Morris, and I'll be looking forward to keep working with you.
All right, Greg, I much appreciate it, man. Much love.
Much love.